Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have no makeup on again, and that's because today I'm going to be showing you how I like to put on my foundation, my blush, all my complexion products because I have very dry skin, and it is very difficult to make makeup look good on it because it's always cracking, it always looks dry and patchy, but I have finally figured out a way that I like to apply it so that everything looks seamless and dewy and nice and polished. So keep on watching, but first, subscribe, like, comment, click all of the good buttons on this page, and I will be forever grateful. So let's get into it. All right, first things first, you need a clean face. So actually, I don't know if you do need a clean face, but whatever, I like to put makeup on a clean face. So the first thing I did off camera was I washed my face. We will go through all of my skincare products at another time, but for now, we're just starting with the complexion. So let me get the hair out of my face and we're gonna get going here. As I mentioned, I already washed my face. You should also think pretty hard about using an SPF every day. I know it feels like an extra unnecessary step, but I don't want to start having crow's feet and droopy eyes. So I'm just gonna use SPF because what's the worst thing that could happen? My skin is protected. Best case scenario, I don't have a lot of wrinkles. So we're just gonna keep going, put on your SPF. It's nighttime right now, so I'm not gonna put on my SPF, but let's just pretend I did. Also at another point, I will show you what SPF I use. It is really great and it's not too expensive, but in any case, let's keep going. Because my skin is so dry, I'm first going to take some eye cream and really slather it on. I'm not gonna rub it in all the way. I'm just going to do a nice thin, maybe not so thin, layer under my eyes, and I'm just gonna let that sit. I like to focus my eye cream in the inner corner right here and the outer corner over here. So right here and right here. And I'm just gonna leave it. I like to think of my eye cream a little bit like the way I think of concealer. If you let it sit there for a second, it'll dry down a little bit, and with concealer, it'll actually give you more coverage, but with lotion, I feel like more sinks into my skin rather than coming up on my finger. So I'm just gonna let that sit there for a little bit. And again, I get the most dryness on the corner of my eye, so I focused a lot of product there. The next thing for any dry skin is moisture. So we are going to put a decent amount of moisturizer on my face. And just swirl it around. Now, I know some people don't like to moisturize their face before makeup, but for me, I absolutely have to, or else it just does not come out right. Now that I have moisturizer on, I'm just gonna go in and rub in the rest of my eye cream. And I know people say use your ring finger, but I always end up using my middle finger, and I'm not gonna hold that up because I don't wanna flip you all off, So next I'm going to grab my dampened beauty blender. I do like to use a brush sometimes, but I've noticed, again, when I use the brush, my makeup just gets patchy. I understand the desire to use a brush because I also like to use a brush, but with dry skin, sometimes you gotta make sacrifices. So here we go. Also, for the eye cream, I used the L'Oreal Revitalift. I talked about this in a different video. It's a good eye cream, it's hydrating. I don't really have anything fantastic or horrible to say about it. And for the moisturizer, I used the Purity Made Simple moisturizer. I started using this a couple years ago and I really liked it. It's a nice lightweight moisturizer. It does have a scent to it though, so if you are sensitive to the scent, I wouldn't use it. And to be honest, I don't think I'll be repurchasing it in the future just because it is on the more expensive side and it is very ultra lightweight. So it's great for under makeup, but as far as really deeply moisturizing my skin, you're not gonna get that from this lotion. So I'd rather get something thicker. So my next tip for you guys is to use a more watery foundation or something like a skin tint that has good coverage, but still is a skin tint. Because if you're gonna start caking on heavy makeup on dry skin, it's not gonna go well. It's gonna crack, it's going to look very patchy, and you're not gonna be able to blend it all the way in. So I like to use the Lancome Skin Feels Good Hydrating Skin Tint Healthy Glow. That is a mouthful, but it looks really pretty on the skin. And even though it's a skin tint, it does have good coverage and you can build it up. It also has SPF 23. I got mine in Ulta, but you can get it wherever makeup is sold. So I start out with just pumping it right on the Beauty Blender. And I just dab it on my face, like so. Now, as I'm dabbing it on my face, I wanna make sure that I mention to you guys, do not bring any of that foundation or skin tint or whatever product you're using under your eyes. You wanna put the least amount of product on your face and especially under your eyes as possible, because if you cake on too much, it's gonna look very dry, very makeup-y. I'm just pushing the foundation into my skin. As you can see, it is a skin tint, but it does give me good coverage. It's evening out my skin tone. And it's not looking makeup-y, it's not looking cakey, it's looking good. And it's a pretty good shade match for me too. I like to think it's a little pale, but it's probably not. So I'm just gonna keep going. I think I need a little more. Go up on my forehead. And because I'm using a dampened beauty blender, this is spreading very evenly and very nicely. If I was using a brush, I would be pulling out my skin because of the dryness. But this, it just bounce, 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 and everything spreads out perfectly. I can also feel the moisture in the beauty blender as I'm stamping everything out, and that's how I know I have enough water in my beauty blender, because it's making my foundation apply more evenly and I don't have to tug at my skin to get it to blend out. Just going down my nose, blend it down the neck a little bit. It's looking good. You can see everything is pretty nicely blended out. Looking like Casper the Friendly Ghost, but that's okay, we're gonna fix that later. Now the next step I'm gonna do is I'm going to go in with some concealer, which I desperately need. I'm gonna use the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. I love this concealer and I highly recommend it if you have dry under eyes. It's kind of like the coverage of Tarte Shape Tape, but not drying. I could never use Shape Tape because my under eyes were just way too dry. So I picked this up, and honestly, buying this compared to the Shape Tape or some of the other high-end concealers I used to like, this is so much better. We're just gonna go with a dot here and a dot out here on both eyes. A little more. And again, you don't want to put too much on. We're just going for a nice even finish here. We're not trying to cake on makeup or look super, you know, makeup-y skin or anything like that, because it's not gonna last well throughout the day. And if you have dry skin, it's going to break down and crack very easily. Also, I'm just gonna let my concealer sit here a little bit. As I mentioned before with the eye cream, if you let your concealer just sit on your face a little bit, it'll actually dry down and hopefully give you a little bit more coverage. Not all concealers do that, but this one does, and a lot of them do. If you are struggling with dark circles under your eyes, try leaving your concealer on for a couple of seconds before you blend it out. You'll get more coverage. It's been a few seconds. I'm gonna start blending this out. And again, I'm using my dampened beauty blender, and I am just pressing lightly into the skin and blending out the concealer. I like to look up when I do this so I don't poke myself in the eye, and so I get in all those creases and, you know, the things that I'm trying to prevent with my sunscreen. Now to the next eye. And any extra, I'm just gonna put on the top of my eyelid so that I don't have drastically different eyelid colors than I do under my eyes. Just gonna pat everything in to make sure it's blended. Drag it down the neck again, because you can never be too careful about that. And all right, this is my complexion. Nothing groundbreaking, just moisturize, don't use too much product, and try to use lightweight hydrating products if you can. If you have dry skin, trust me, the product makes a huge difference. Of course, everyone's skin is different, so I shouldn't say that you won't be disappointed, because you might be, but in general, I highly recommend these products for dry skin. So the next thing I like to do is I like to put on some setting powder. I don't put it all over my face because, again, I'm dry. I don't need to dry out my face more. And this skin tint does dry down pretty well, so I don't feel like I need a powder to set it down. The powder I use is the CoverGirl Clean Fresh. I have a couple other ones, but in general, I just like to buy cheaper powders. I don't buy that much high-end powder because I feel like half the time when you're using translucent powder, it all goes up in the air, you inhale it, and then that's half your money anyways. So I always like to go with a cheaper powder. There's plenty at the drugstore that work well. I'm using the CoverGirl Clean Fresh, but I've used e.l.f., I've used NYX, all good. I don't like to use a translucent setting powder because that is way too drying for my face. It just makes everything look crunchy. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, it removes the coverage around my eyes. It makes everything look dry and crunchy, and especially in my under eye area, I cannot use translucent powder. On my cheeks, it looks fantastic, but if I put it anywhere else, like over here, under my eyes, I'll have to redo my concealer entirely. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna swirl around in here. I'm gonna get a little bit, not too much. So you can see, I don't have that much, just a little bit. And I'm gonna run this under my eyes. And there, my under eyes are set, and I'm not gonna put any more powder on my face. Let me do the other eye. Again, this is the CoverGirl Clean Fresh powder. It is a pressed powder, it is not a translucent powder. If you like that, by all means, go ahead and use it. It can make skin look really nice and really airbrushed, but for me, typically, it just looks horrible on my skin, so I don't like to use it. I just have the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. A lot of people love this. They say it smells like vacation. It's good. I have pale skin, and this is very nice and blendable, so I don't make myself look ridiculous. So that's why I like to use it. So I'm just gonna swirl and just go over here, blend this out. Now on the other side. And yes, I do make a fish face when I'm putting on bronzer. With your bronzer, you wanna make sure that you're not bringing it too far in. So what I like to do is I go from my ear to about halfway into my cheek, and then I stop. If you bring it in further, it can start to look muddy, and we don't want that. We just want a nice bronzed face. Now we're gonna take some more, and we're gonna go under the neck, get rid of the double chin. Next, I'm just gonna put some on my forehead so that I don't have bronzer just in one place. And you can see I put on a little bit too much, but that's okay, because this bronzer is really great. It's very user-friendly, and if I use too much, I can just blend it out. The three main points you want your bronzer to be are around here on your forehead, along your cheekbone, and then along your jawline. So while you're blending, just be sure that you're not going like in the middle of your forehead or something. Unless you like that, then go ahead. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. All right, my sneeze is not coming, so we're just gonna move on. I'm pretty pale right now. We're coming out of the winter. I haven't seen sun and it feels like a very long time. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to take whatever is left over on my brush and I just go all over my face with it. Very gently, very lightly, and again, it's just the product you have left. You're not dunking back in, and you're not gonna end up with big splotches of bronzer. It's just a light dusting of anything that's left over on your brush. If you're like me, and you're really pale, this just gives a little bit more life back into the skin. So you might have seen I used my beauty blender for three things: my concealer, my foundation, and my powder. It is totally okay to use your brushes and your sponges for multiple products. You don't have to have a new sponge or brush for everything. As long as you're not mixing two completely different things onto one brush, you should be fine. So I wouldn't recommend putting your highlight on with one brush and then putting your concealer on with that same brush. Those things are a little too different. But as far as foundation and concealer go, that's fine. And if you want to put a powder on with that same sponge or that same brush, also fine. Just put it on after your cream products. If you put it on before, that'll probably mess up your makeup. So just remember to put on your powders after you put on your cream products and you'll be set. For example, sometimes I put on blush and bronzer with the same brush. Sometimes I put my bronzer and my eyeshadow on with the same brush. That's okay. Sometimes you're in a rush and you gotta go, even if you're not in a rush and you don't wanna clean more brushes. Just use similar products that won't mess each other up in the other part of the face and you'll be fine. I'm just gonna go in with a little bit of blush. I just got this brush actually. It's a Japanesque brush, number 961. It looked nice and it does apply pretty nicely. It's not as fluffy as I would like, so you just have to be a little careful with how much blush you're applying. I'm using the NARS blush in Outlaw. It is kind of really on its last leg, but I love this blush. It is my favorite. It stays on the longest. It's just the perfect color in my opinion. I did recently get the NARS Orgasm blush, so I'll be trying that out soon. I got it at Marshall's. It was one of the limited edition packages, and I think I got it for $10.99, and it was a full size. So I'm really excited to try that. Maybe it can replace this trusty old friend that needs to be washed and probably thrown away. And I think that looks nice. I really like a lot of blush, so when we're done, I'll probably go back in with more. I put some on my chin, I put some on my nose, I put some on my cheeks. I really just put it everywhere. I really like blush. And before we put on our highlight, I like to grab my fluffy brush. Once again, the one that I use bronzer for. This should have no product left. Really just, if anything, a little bit of powder. I like to take it and just swirl all over my face to make sure everything is blended. And again, this doesn't really have any powder left on it, so it's not like you're setting your entire face with powder. Now that the base is nice and blended, we're gonna go in with highlighter. I'm gonna use the Morphe M511 and the Master Chrome highlighter. What shade is this? Molten Rose Gold. I got this because Tati recommended it. It was her favorite. I used to love Tati. I hope she comes back one day. But in any case, I love her, but I do not love this highlighter. It's a little bit too much for me, a little too chunky. I like a more subdued highlighter. I actually really like liquid highlighter. I'll just take some and tap it in. But today we're going with the powder. Just put a little bit on the high points of your cheeks. A lot of people like to go really crazy with highlighter, but unfortunately when you have dry skin, you can't do that because it really picks up on your texture. And I know I said not to put on a lot, but that looks pretty nice. Now I just take some extra, put it down my nose, and I put it down here. Even though it comes off in 5 seconds, I still try, you know? Okay, I went a little overboard on my nose. That's okay, I'm just gonna go like this and take some off. So the last face step, if you have dry skin, is really important, and that's to use setting spray. It's not to necessarily make your makeup last longer, it's just to meld everything together. I did use a couple of powder products. I was pushing everything around on my face, and I just want it all to melt together into my skin. And if you have dry skin, setting spray can really help do that. So I'm gonna use the Milani Make It Last. Again, it says make it last, but that's not really why I'm using it. I'm more so using it to make everything meld together on my face. So here we go. So that's setting in a little bit. I'm gonna let it dry for a couple seconds, and before it completely dries, I'm going to go back and take that beauty blender, preferably a side that doesn't have any product on it, and I am just going to go and press everything back in. This will help make sure you don't have any droplets from the setting spray left on your face, and it'll just help make everything melt together. Everything is all patted into my face with my beauty blender. It doesn't feel wet on my face. Everything is dry and to the touch. I have some Maybelline coming off, some of the highlighter, but other than that, I really don't have any foundation coming off of my face. So definitely don't need to set it. Now this isn't really a part of the complexion, but I always, no matter what, after I put on my foundation and my complexion, I have to put on lip balm. My lips get so dry. I'm using the Glossier Balm.com. You can use whatever hydrating lip product you want. I have literally everything under the sun. That'll be talked about in another video as well. What's good, what's bad. In any case, I'm just gonna put some lip balm on my lips. This way, when I go in to put on lipstick or whatever I'm doing in a couple of minutes, this has a chance to set into my lips and really moisturize and make sure my lips don't look cracked when that happens. I don't like to use a matte or really a liquid lipstick at all because my lips are just way too dry. I was on Accutane like 4 years ago and my lips just never recovered. So that is a separate video for another time. This was just about complexion, but I'm going to do a close-up for you guys so you can see everything that's going on. So again, this is my dry skin complexion routine. I have very dry skin. I was on Accutane a couple years ago. My skin and my lips just never rebounded. So this is how I suggest doing it. If you don't have dry skin, I can't really comment because I only know what I have to work with, but I hope you enjoyed. If you do have dry skin, I suggest trying out some of these products, trying out some of these techniques, and comment down below if you've used any of these techniques or products and you've liked them, or if you've never tried any of these products or any of these techniques. Go home, try it, get back to me, leave a comment, see if it worked for you, and let me know how it goes. And then that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. Please come back next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We will have another video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon in my next video.